Well, Mikey Williams is officially a UCF Knight. How did this happen? And how big is this for UCF landing a player like him? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Charge On. As always, I'm your host, Sean Green. Before we get started, as always, a quick word from our sponsor, Bet.online. With NFL playoffs right around the corner and the NBA season in full swing, Bet.online has you covered with all the up-to-the-second odds, news, and scores. With additional odds, lines, trends, and info on both desktop and mobile, you can access the world's best wagering information anytime. Head there today to get into the action and see all the updated odds. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts. Guys, we got a basketball boom, a huge one. Mikey Williams has committed emergency pod. We had a pod come out literally yesterday. So you're getting back-to-back episodes. This is what happens. And this was what happens when you're in the Big 12 basketball scene. And this is what you get. So I'm glad or happy that you guys can join me on this Friday night after a huge UCF basketball boom. A couple weeks ago, I had a couple sources that I find very credible that told me that Mikey Williams was headed to UCF. This was about 2 weeks ago. And this is before it was announced that he was entering the portal. They reached out to me and said Mikey Williams and J.J. Taylor are most likely headed to UCF. And I found that very interesting. As we all know, Mikey Williams, and we'll get into Mikey as a player, but there's been a lot of attention, good and bad, surrounding Mikey Williams. And he's been, scrutinized. There's been a lot of legal issues he's had to deal with that he's gotten cleared up. And, he was committed to Memphis and Penny Hardaway, ultimately got his legal issues situated. And I guess ultimately the reason why he ended up transferring was he didn't feel that they were making it a priority to make sure he was going to be eligible to play either this season or the 24-25 season. So he said, I'm going to transfer, and that's where we are. He ends up announcing to the world and all of his Instagram followers, TikTok, all that stuff, that he is headed to UCF. Now, we're going to talk about Mikey as a basketball player in person, but we're also going to talk about how big is this for UCF as a whole and kind of what UCF has been doing much recently with Johnny Dawkins and how I think the narrative around Johnny Dawkins has shifted significantly, not just in the past couple months, but especially in the past 3-4 days. So let's read a little bit about Mikey Williams. I'm going to read about his personal life on On3. If you go to On3, listen, it speaks for itself. If you go to 247 and you look at his rankings, obviously he was in the class of 2023, was a 4-star, practically 5-star 247 sports composite, number 10 combo guard, 51st overall player in the nation, according to 247 sports. But if you look at his personal life on On3, I'm just going to read what they have written for him. Mikey Williams became the first American high school basketball player to sign a sneaker deal with Global Footwear Company. His multi-year deal with Puma at the age of 17 puts him on the same product team as other basketball stars like Breonna Stewart, Skylar Diggins-Smith, LaMelo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, and DeAndre Ayton. Williams has more than 5.5 million combined Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter followers, which makes him one of the most marketable high school athletes in history. Experts agree that influence is real both on and off the court. On the court, he's a 5-star combo guard in the 2023 class. According to the On3 consensus, fans line up outside and around the gym to see him play in a game. Off the court, he takes countless selfies and photographs before and after games. He said he has been asked to sign just about everything from a kid's forehead to a cell phone case. With all this notoriety comes immense pressure, but Williams said he has a plan to handle it all. Everyone has an opinion on my life, Williams told Yahoo Sports. And everything you see on social media, I don't let people see behind the scenes stuff, and that's how I want it to be. Obviously, a lot of that was before the legal issues. Now, we're not going to get into all of the legality and everything surrounding that issue, because I think though it is a part of this whole thing, I don't think if that happened, he would be transferring. He'd probably still be at Memphis. And that is a part of the story. But I think with him getting it cleared up now, listen, UCF came out and talked to and told a couple team reporters that listen, we did our due diligence. We feel confident in him as a human being and him as a person to come join not just the basketball team, but the university. So I have all the faith and trust in Coach Dawkins and UCF that they did their due diligence. But that is going to be kind of the story surrounding Mikey Williams. If you just look from a pure player standpoint, he's got everything that it takes to be the biggest recruit in UCF's history. Now, granted, UCF's had big recruits. They had Taylor Hendricks last year, number 9 overall player in the NBA draft to get drafted, and he got drafted to Utah, right? UCF has been, and we'll talk about a little bit about UCF and how they've been recruiting, but when you look at Mikey Williams as a player and kind of everything surrounding Mikey, social media, obviously he's got a huge social media presence. That's why, again, not many players, if you even look at the number 1 player in the country, right? Like if you're looking at the top guy in a class, yes, they get notoriety, they get the praise when they're committing and when they go to college. But when you got a guy like this, it's on SportsCenter the minute he commits. Now, granted, again, there's a lot around this kid. There's a lot of media hype, a lot of media negativity around Mikey Williams. But what I love about it is, number 1, how far UCF is going as a program. And number 2, how huge this can be for Mikey. UCF is on the come up. They're in the Big 12, right? You leave a program like Memphis with Penny Hardaway, and yes, Memphis is a great basketball program. But I think he can really come in here and change the narrative, right? Listen, he was at Memphis when everything happened. He comes to UCF, and nobody is discrediting what he does on the basketball floor. He's electric. You just go type in Mikey Williams highlights, and it just gets you pumped to see this kid play. Then you go look at just an Instagram commitment, and you've got guys like Paolo Banchero saying, "Welcome to the O." You've got guys like Des Bryant saying, "I'm going to go catch a game." You got big-time stars. He's followed by LeBron James, followed by a bunch of high-profile athletes, followed by Drake. This kid is his own brand at a young age. And you kind of look at, and listen, not saying everything in the media has been great, but I think when you have a kid this young and dealt with his legal issues, has moved on, just wants to play basketball, and you are going to a program with one of the most well-respected head coaches in the nation, where just recently, literally 3 days ago, probably the best coach in college basketball, Bill Self, said just one word to describe Johnny Dawkins was class, pure class. It's the best spot for him. I think Johnny Dawkins is the perfect coach for somebody like Mikey Williams, saying, and I think to a great degree, a great coach that's going to give him the best chance to succeed, and a great life coach as well, to really mold him into a great young man that he can be. And in basketball, listen, everybody's got baggage. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's trying to become a good young man, a good young player in the basketball world. That's what college is for. Like, go hear Nick Saban talk about what he's trying to do in the coaching profession, or what he was trying to do. He just retired. Credit to Nick Saban. He said, we're trying to get these guys set up for life. We want the best programs. We want the best resources. We want to make sure we're setting these kids up for post-football. So when it comes to basketball, when you got a kid that's coming in that's had all of the positive and negative media attention surrounding Mikey Williams, to go to a place like UCF is the best possible fit. And the main reason is because of Johnny Dawkins. Now, for those that are watching this video that are Mikey Williams fans and maybe not so encapsulated with UCF sports and UCF basketball, Johnny Dawkins has been the head coach at UCF for many, many years. And a lot of UCF fans have criticized Johnny Dawkins on his ability to win important games, his ability to kind of get teams over the hump, his ability to recruit at a high level. But he's kind of starting to show people, which is why if you go back many episodes ago, have always said, this is the reason you keep a guy like Johnny Dawkins. Because you bring a guy like Mikey Williams in, who we'll see if he gets a waiver. I hope he gets a waiver to play this year. I don't think it's going to happen. If it does, that'd be great. My guess is he will be playing next season, because knowing how the NCAA does these things, I am almost positive they will not approve for him to play this year. I hope so. But Johnny Dawkins has been scrutinized heavily by UCF fans. And men's basketball, call it like it is, there's not a lot of people in the stands. You look at the Kansas game, and I hope that those will start to be the Big 12 games. I hope people pack that arena every game. Pack Edition Financial, because I think the guys deserve it. They play hard, they play tough, and Johnny Dawkins has had many big wins over his UCF tenure. But UCF basketball, called like it is. After football, people take a break. Unless men's basketball is riding really high and winning all their games. Because most of the time, people don't figure out about men's basketball until end of January if they're good. Because again, most people just focus on UCF football and then put everything else to the side. But Johnny Dawkins has put in work. You beat number 3 Kansas, right? You're playing BYU tomorrow, which everybody needs to go watch that game, because a lot of hype surrounding this program. Gotta show out to the guys. If you don't watch on television, go to the game. Some cheap tickets online, you can go to the game. But if you just look at what he's been doing recruiting-wise, and this is what I think is most important, nobody's really been talking about the recruiting aspect. Now, granted, we'll see where J.J. Taylor goes, because I heard J.J. Taylor is going to be going to the UCF Knights. Him and Mikey Williams, again, they're kind of a package deal, went to high school together. I've been hearing J.J. Taylor is going to also be coming to UCF. That might not be until announced maybe a week from now. But again, when you're looking at it, that would be another great addition for Johnny Dawkins. Now, a lot of people were like, Johnny Dawkins has really taken a dip recruiting. He got Taylor Hendricks, yes, but you look at his last class that he signed, and it didn't really jump off the page. Johnny Dawkins brought in a lot of transfers, not necessarily a lot of, guys that you can build off of. And I think that's been the negative. But then you see what he's doing in the upcoming classes. Signed Kyle Green for next year in the class of 2024. 6'2", point guard, one of the top players in the nation at his position, and can really do a lot of things with the ball, right? Because right now you have Darius Johnson playing point guard. I think bringing in, again, a guy like Kyle Green will probably start immediately. And then you got Mikey Williams at the 2. It's looking really good. Then you go to the class of 2025. And this is where I think, I'm not going to even try to pronounce the name. I'm going to be honest. Mustafa Thiam, I'm going to say, if I butchered that, I apologize. Center in the class of 2025. Number 1 center in the class of 2025 from Daytona Beach, Florida. Consensus, basically 5-star. On 247, they have him as a 97 overall, 4-star. But on the 247 composite, he's a 99.9917 5-star. Number 1 center in the nation. Number 21 nationally, according to 247 Sports. UCF is on the come up. They're in the Big 12. They're in the best basketball conference. You got Kyle Green coming in next year. You got a guy like Mikey Williams, who's going to be packing that house regardless. Potentially J.J. Taylor. Potentially Thiam, who's going to be coming in 25. And then you got Johnny Dawkins as your head coach. Don't let UCF get hot. Don't let UCF get hot. And this is for all the Johnny Dawkins haters. Because I personally said, you're not going to find anybody better. You're not going to find anybody more respected. You're not going to find anybody that's a better leader among men than Johnny Dawkins. And he's proving it. And I also said, some of the criticisms have been fair. It's not just wanting him fired. I get some of the criticisms, right? But I think he's showing to you now what Johnny Dawkins can do. Number 1, with limited NIL money, Call that like it is. Men's basketball is not getting a bunch of NIL money shoveled to it. And Johnny Dawkins is doing that because players respect the hell out of Johnny Dawkins. And players want to go play at UCF because they're in the Big 12. I would argue most players would rather go play at UCF now than Florida, Florida State, or Miami in the basketball landscape. Call it like it is. But Mikey Williams is officially headed to UCF. We'll keep you updated here on Charge On when any more news regarding him kind of comes available, because I'm assuming we're going to get an update here pretty soon on if the NCAA is going to allow a waiver for him to play this year. If he plays this year, he's going to make an immediate impact. I think if you just look at the ceiling for UCF, I think he adds a couple wins onto that. Now, granted, he's a young player, hasn't played a college game. That has to be added. Hasn't played basketball, hasn't been in practices for a pretty long time because he wasn't practicing in Memphis. Memphis kind of just cast him off to the side, which, again, you kind of understand. But the hype surrounding Mikey Williams, which will then in part bring hype around the UCF basketball program, is going to be significant. And we'll see how it goes. We'll also see how UCF fares tomorrow against BYU, one of the top 25 teams in the country. Coming off of their huge program-defining, biggest win in program history, win against number 3 Kansas. So that's all I got to say on the matter. What do you guys think? Obviously, it's I don't want to say highly controversial, but I'm sure there's some fans that maybe aren't happy about this. I'm thrilled. I think this just completely brings UCF basketball to a whole other level in terms of outlook to the public, and also actually on the court. Because when you bring in phenomenal players and phenomenal young players, I think that's one of the things that we've wanted out of Johnny is to bring in some of the best young talent and not just bring in a bunch of transfers every year. He's really building up for the future, which is saving Johnny's job for the next however many years. And he is the right man for the job. Drop down in the comments what you guys think. Let us know. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. Do all that you do. We greatly appreciate it. If you want one of the Charge On hats, the link is down below. Head to our Etsy shop. We only have a limited number available, so go down below and do those. Guys, I appreciate you watching this on a Friday, Saturday, whenever you're watching this. Thank you for tuning in to Charge On. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. And I guess we'll see you next week when we drop another episode. Wasn't expecting to do an episode tonight. You get an episode tonight, and a men's basketball episode at that. How about that? Mikey Williams is officially a UCF Knight. All right, everybody. This has been Charge On, presented by Bet Online. We will see you next week.